Hi, I'm back for the second half of Chapter 5, Cries from the Castle, and we just finished the last video with Bree finding out that she didn't really land the plane, so let's see what happens next. Once their hearts settled to a normal pace, Bree and the Sisters Grimm locked up the plane and headed for Emmerich's house. Bree thought leaving the plane unattended in a field was a strange thing to do, but Cornelia assured her that planes were very difficult to steal. Bree led the women through the outskirts of Fusen and into the little village just below Neuschwanstein Castle called Hohenschwagen. Since Cornelia walked with a cane, Bree was worried the journey would be too much for her, but the old woman howled along, excited to be on another Sisters Grimm adventure. They walked past all the souvenir shops, restaurants, and inns dedicated to the castle, and found the Himmelsbach's tiny house at the edge of town. "There it is," Bree said and pointed to the front steps. "That's where Connor and I met him. The sight made Bree feel remarkably nostalgic. It seemed like just yesterday that she and Connor had told Emmerich they were secret agents so he would take them into the castle after visiting hours. They hadn't been friends for long, but Bree and Emmerich had shared such an incredible once-in-a-lifetime adventure. She couldn't believe that there was a time when the little German boy was a stranger. She just hoped they could bring him back home, wherever he was. "Here goes nothing," Bree said. "I hope Frau Himmelsbach is better at answering her door than she is her phone." They walked up to the front steps and rang the doorbell. They waited, but no one answered. Bree rang the doorbell again, holding it down a little longer. A moment later, Frau Himmelsbach answered the door. "Kann ich dir helfen?" she asked. If Bree didn't recognize her voice from the phone, she wouldn't have thought it was Emmerich's mother. The woman had brown hair and olive skin, very different from her son's pale skin and rosy complexion. She had puffy eyes and sunken cheeks, like she had been crying and not eating much. She wore a big black robe over a nightgown and probably hadn't changed clothes in days. The woman wasn't what Bree was expecting, but she definitely looked like a mother of a missing child. "Frau Himmelsbach, I'm sorry to disturb you," Bree said. "I'm Bree Campbell, your son's friend from the United States." Emmerich's mother was not happy to see her, and especially not happy to see she had brought friends with her. "What is wrong with you, child?" the Frau said. "I told you to stop calling me, and now you've come to my house?" "I'm sorry," Bree said. "I know you don't want to talk to me, but I couldn't stay away. These are my cousins, Cornelia, Frenda, and Wanda. We traveled all this way because we want to help you find your son." Frau Himmelsbach crossed her arms and shook her head. She wasn't easy to convince. "You Americans and your ego," she said. "What can you do that the Bavarian police cannot?" Bree looked at the Sisters Grimm, hoping one of them would have an answer. "We're private investigators who specialize in child abductions," Cornelia said. "We brought special equipment along with us that may point us in the direction of whoever took your child." "The police searched every inch of my home," the Frau said. "They didn't find a single clue." "With all due respect, ma'am," Wanda said, "the Bavarian police can't find clues like we can. May we please come inside?" The distressed mother looked back and forth among the women, trying to think of a reason not to let them, but she couldn't. "Fine," she said. "I apologize, my house is a mess." Frau Himmelsbach escorted Bree and the Sisters Grimm inside her home. The Frau offered them a seat in the sitting room, and Cornelia and Bree happily accepted. From the sofa they could see into Emmerich's bedroom through an open door in the hall. The walls were covered in posters of superheroes. Bree remembered him saying he wanted to visit the United States because that's where all the superheroes lived. The memory made her miss him even more. "May we have a look around?" Frenda asked. "As you wish," the Frau said. Frenda and Wanda went to work right away. They each removed a cross-dimensional emission tracking device from their purse. The device looked like a long microphone connected to an old radio. They waved the microphone parts around the house, and the radio parts beeped as they went. They searched the sitting room and the kitchen, but didn't find anything. The search continued in Emmerich's bedroom, and when they scanned the area by his window, the machines beeped like crazy. Wanda looked to Bree and Cornelia, and with one nod, she said 1,000 words. Someone from the fairy tale world had definitely been here. Bree's hunch was right. "Was Emmerich taken through the window?" Frenda asked. "Yes," Frau Himmelsbach said. It surprised they knew. "The night it happened, Emmerich was sleeping in his bedroom while I was in here reading. I heard a noise, so I checked on him. His window was open, and in the distance I saw someone in a black cloak running away with Emmerich over their shoulder." She broke into tears, recalling the terrifying sight, and Cornelia offered her a handkerchief. I chased them, but they disappeared into the night, the Frau said. I called the police and they came to the house the every day for a week. They found nothing and never found anything, even a fingerprint. How did you know he was taken from the window? If they were going to tell the Frau the truth, Bree figured it was the best to start at the beginning. Shortly before Emmerich was taken, he and I made a crazy discovery, Bree said. We did this thing, like a blood test, that proved he and I are actually related. Our blood matches DNA from the Brothers Grimm. The Brothers Grimm? The Frau asked. Yes, Bree continued, which means Cornelia, Frenda, Wanda, and myself are either related to you or to Emmerich's father. The Frau was very confused. I wouldn't know either way, she said. Emmerich isn't my biological son. He was adopted. Adopted, Bree said in shock. He never mentioned that. That's because I never told him, Frau Himmelsbach said. He was abandoned when he was a baby. I didn't want him living life thinking he was unwanted. Everything Bree thought she knew suddenly changed. She quickly abandoned her plan to tell the Frau about the fairy tale world. Clearly, she didn't have all the facts straight. Where was he found? Bree asked. New Westenstein Castle, she said. My father used to work nights there as a security guard. One night, as he was patrolling the halls, he heard crying. He followed the cries to the singer's hall and found Emmerich wrapped up in a blanket in the middle of the floor. Someone must have left him during a tour earlier in the day. It was very strange because my father swore he had checked the room multiple times earlier that night and never saw the baby. Bree and the Sisters Grimm were all thinking the same thing. Emmerich wasn't related to the Brothers Grimm after all. He was from the fairy tale world. Someone must have crossed through the portal into the singer's hall and left him in the castle. The Frau's eyes suddenly grew wide and she covered her mouth fearfully. Wait a moment, she said. That reminds me of something I completely forgot. There was a note pinned to his blanket the night he was found. Let me see if I can find it. Emmerich's mom went down the hall to her bedroom. They heard her searching madly through all her drawers and belongings. A few minutes later, she returned with a piece of parchment. Her hands were shaking as if she were holding a ransom note. She handed it to Bree, and the Sisters Grimm gathered around her to read the note. To whoever finds this child, please take him to a loving home that will offer protection. His father is a very dangerous man, and the child is not safe with his mother. Should the father learn of his son's existence, the child will be in grave danger. It appeared that Bree and the Sisters Grimm had helped the Frau uncover a suspect in her son's disappearance, Emmerich's biological father. It was many years ago. I forgot the note existed, Frau Himmelsbach confessed. Even then, I didn't take it seriously. I never thought they would find him. Should we take this to the police? Wanda asked. No, we can't, the Frau exclaimed. You see, I never legally adopted Emmerich. I fell in love with him the minute my father brought him home. At the time, we were very poor. I was afraid he would be taken away if we called the police, so we kept it a secret. If they found out now, I would never see him again. Bree had so many questions she could barely see straight. She had always loved a good mystery novel, but she never thought her life would turn into one. If you're related to him, do you have any idea who Emmerich's parents are? Frau Himmelsbach said. Do you know where they might have taken him? I'm afraid not, Bree said, but I know someone who might. And that's the end of the chapter. Our next chapter is chapter 6, A Bewitching Offer. I'll see you guys then. Bye.